Michael Yoder. I recently heard Mike Rinder with John Atack talk about an auditing process called Op-Pro by Dupe. When I looked it up, it had to do with the RPF, and the description was pretty bleak, dragging an unconscious person around to do TRs. Did you have to do this routine, and can you tell us more about it and your experience? Hey, Michael, thank you for this. Op-Pro by Dupe is short for, an abbreviation for, Opening Procedure by Duplication. And it is an auditing process that L. Ron Hubbard developed back in like 1954 or 55 or something. And I actually went to the scriptures, as I am wont to do, and I pulled up the original Professional Auditor's Bulletin, number 48, dated 18 March 1955, titled Opening Procedure by Duplication. Now, it was also numbered process or routine R217. Okay, so R actually stands for route, and that's from a book called The Creation of Human Ability, which Hubbard wrote as a book of processes and providing two routes by which a person might exteriorize, go out of their body and know it. That's what exteriorization is in Scientology, is when you're having an out-of-body experience where you are aware of perceptions and sights and sounds or just a feeling or an awareness that you are not in your body. And you are not your body. That's the idea. That's what they want you to get. And these OBEs, out-of-body experiences, are called in Scientology exteriorization. So they're real big on exteriorization, and Op-Pro by Dupe was a process that intended to exteriorize a person. It intended to do other things too, but that was one of the sort of sub-goals of the process. There are lots of easier ways to exteriorize somebody in Scientology. I've gone over them. I think even recently I mentioned the whole be 3 feet back of your head. Single command, the magic words, right? Be 3 feet back of your head, or try not to be 3 feet back of your head, right? And these would work, quote unquote, on some people. You would say these words to them in an auditing session, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I am 3 feet back of my head. Wow, I can see the room." This is a classic and a fairly strong case, actually, of some disassociation. This is not a good thing. It's not healthy to be doing this to yourself psychologically. Your body is you. So this idea you're going to step out of your body is just anyway. It's not good. It's not healthy, and yet this is a goal. It's a big, huge goal in Scientology. And okay, now there are other purposes or uses. What I'm telling you is sort of the PR of what Hubbard said this thing is for. But he also admitted to, or also said in the bulletins and stuff here, that opening procedure by duplication is a process that is supposed to condition a person to, or get a person used to, duplicative commands, repetitive commands, right? This is a kind of processing or auditing that is done in Scientology, and there are lots and lots of these duplicative or repetitive commands where you're given the same command or the same question to answer over and over and over again. And this puts you into a trance state, and it doesn't even take that long to happen. And once you're in that trance state, then you're in this sort of semi-hypnotic daze, and you are semi-conscious, and you go in and out of, feeling like you're sleeping. Hubbard called it boil off. He explained it as the process of past incidents of unconsciousness and pain kind of coming up, floating up to the surface and hitting you in the head, and you sort of doze off and all this. And it's supposed to be, at varying times in Scientology's history, it's been good for you, not so good for you, ignore it, whatever. Hubbard's had different directions about this kind of unconsciousness that can strike a person in auditing. But back in 55, this was a desired result. We wanted people to go through this. And now in auditing, it's pretty much the same thing. This unconscious state you can go in, or this trance state, is a desired, it's a feature. It's what you're supposed to have happen to you when you're in auditing. And it's supposed to indicate, according to Hubbard, like I said, that you are running off or getting rid of or releasing past unconsciousnesses, hypnotize incidents, efforts of, effort, that kind of thing, heavy emotion, pain, all this stuff is supposedly flying off of you. Well, that's a bunch of nonsense. You're really just in this sort of trance state. Now, when I describe this process to you, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's a little weird. What you do is also opening procedure by duplication is also called in the UK, he says here, in Great Britain, where auditors have used there's two objects in the process that you use. And classically, these two objects are a book and a bottle. Like a bottle, just glass bottle, Coke bottle, whatever. A wine bottle even, whatever. You got a bottle on one side and you got a book, any book, normal lightweight book. You don't want a tome or something. And you put these on different desks or different little shelves or something. They're placed, okay, for example, a book, for instance, is placed in one part of a room and a bottle is placed in another part of a room, far enough apart so that the pre-clear, the person doing the auditing, the pre-clear, will have to walk between them. This is not a sitting down process. You're standing the whole time this is going on. The auditor, the person administering the process, he gets to sit down, but you have to walk. And what you do is the auditor then sends him back and forth from one to the other, from the book to the bottle, bottle to the book, using for each item a stereotyped series of questions which actually themselves never vary. Okay, I'm reading to you from the scriptures here. Because these questions never vary, the auditor is apt to forget that he must maintain a two-way communication with the pre-clear. In other words, if the pre-clear in doing this process appears to be going out of it or has a question or is concerned or has some complaint, the auditor is supposed to acknowledge him, not just ignore it. And there are some auditing processes where the auditor ignores everything the pre-clear says or does except for compliance with the auditor's commands. This is not one of those processes. The auditor is supposed to maintain communication with the pre-clear, but the communication's not the important part of the process. Doing the steps are the important part of the process. And so basically the way the commands go, and let me see if I can just find the list of commands here. Let's see. I've got it right here. Okay. Go over to the book. Okay, so here's the auditor. He tells the pre-clear what they're going to do. You get some idea of what's going to happen, what the goal of the session is, and then they start the process. Okay, and the way the process goes is the auditor tells the pre-clear to do the following things in order over and over and over again. Go over to the book. Look at it. Pick it up. What is its color? What is its temperature? What is its weight? Put it down in the same place. Go over to the bottle. Look at it. Pick it up. What is its color? What is its temperature? What is its weight? Put it down in the same place. Go over to the book, right? And this goes back and forth. Go over to the book, pick it, look at it, pick it up. What was it? Color, temperature, and weight. Put it back in the same place. And they continue. This goes on for hours and hours, minimum 25 hours to do this process. And it's not in one shot. Hubbard does say, when I was going through this, the bulletins here on how to run this, that you don't run it for just 20 minutes at a shot or something. You're intended to run this process for hours at a shot. Minimum, you'd really want to go for like 2.5 hours in a stretch. Wrap it up, you get to a flat point, a point where you're like, okay, well, I'm not done yet, but I feel so-so or feel okay, and, he's not sitting there like falling over himself. Okay, we're done now, right? You don't end off a process when the pre-clear's falling asleep, unconscious, laying on the floor. You're going to get him to a point where he's like, okay, well, I'm totally bored with this, or I hate this, or I don't want to do this, but I'm at a good spot or something, right? I'm at a flat spot. Let him go home. Come back the next day. Or maybe he even has some kind of minor epiphany or realization, or what they call a cognition, where oh, wow, I kind of like books. I think I need to read more books. His affinity goes up for books, right? Got to say something positive to get the hell out of the session, right? Because believe me, pre-clears who do this process and auditors who have to deliver it hate it. It is the most redundant, repetitive, boring nonsense. Oh, it just feels like torture after a while. Truly, it does. And Hubbard says it's supposed to. You're supposed to go through that. You're supposed to run it out. And Hubbard said that one of the biggest complaints about the process when he was first writing about it is people complained that they felt like they were being hypnotized. And Hubbard's rejoinder to that was, no, we are running out hypnosis. And at that point where you're absolutely convinced that what's going on is hypnosis and you're being hypnotized here, right past that point, you just keep going and you're going to release all that hypnotism from the past and you're going to feel great. Whatever. This is opening procedure by duplication. It has been used on the RPF, but it is not a specific RPF thing. Just to address that in your question, Michael, because this was developed in 1955, almost 2 decades before the RPF was even an idea in Hubbard's brain. So opening procedure by duplication has been used to torture Scientologists for almost as long as Scientology's been around. And it is a real torture fest. Delivering it and doing it. I received it. I delivered it. It was awful. And there is a time frame on it too. They will make you keep running it and running it and running it. Hubbard said over and over again, you want this thing being run for hours. And of course, the real goal here, now that we've sort of talked about what Hubbard had to say about it and kind of how it's used, it's a part of the objective auditing that is done at the lower end of the bridge. It can be done again at any point and often is. What Hubbard's doing with this process is he is conditioning Scientologists to get used to and be willing to be controlled. And he actually even said that in so many words in the materials of Scientology. They just don't see the nefarious aspect of that, right? Is you want to get people into an amiable, controllable frame of mind where they're used to doing what you tell them. And if you can convince somebody that by them complying with your orders, that you're helping them, that you're, even if they feel resistance and they feel like this is wrong and they don't want to do it, no, this is the right thing for you to do. No pain, no gain. You got to make some sacrifice. We have to go through the struggle of this, right, in order to get to the goodies on the other end. And so people knuckle down and convince themselves that this is what they need to do. But what they're really doing is making themselves more amiable, more open to suggestion and post and pre-hypnotic commands, of course, with the trance states. But also just getting used to being controlled. And the principle that sort of underlies this from Hubbard is that if you are not willing to be controlled, then you'll never, ever be able to control others. Well, there's a certain degree of truth in that. But of course, when you take it, when you dial it up to 11, and, then it's all about controlling the Scientologists, and they don't get any control. If they try to control the church to do something, the church shows them very quickly that it's not interested in being controlled. Maybe the church needs some op pro by dupe, right? Anyway, so that's what the process is. It's pretty gross. It is a torture fest of a process, and nobody enjoys it. I never heard anybody really have anything good to say about it during all the years I was in. It was always just this, oh God, not that. But it would be used. And Hubbard also, just for your interest, Hubbard also recommended that it be used on the people who are in charge of correcting the organizations and on those who are in charge of establishing the organizations. There's a whole rundown that you're supposed to do on the people who are in charge of establishing the organization, the people in HCO, the Hubbard Communications Office, Division 1 of the Scientology Organizing Board. Hubbard said that the guy who heads that up should be run through this process for like 50 hours, 25 hours giving, 25 hours receiving, just to get flat on control and being controlled and that kind of thing. And anyway, so Hubbard had a lot of different places he sort of inserted this in the world of Scientology, but that's what it is. And if it sounds horrible, that's what it is.